That's what I was going to ask you, Ed. I mean, I just think back, if we look not so big picture, but more specifically at just last season, 2025, a historically bad defense, and you think about all the times. I mean, I was sitting next to you in the press box at some of these games, and there was at least 10 yards of separation between any Cowboys defensive back and even like Giants wide receivers, right? Like, I mean, it was painfully bad to watch the secondary last season. So if you could try to put, I guess, into perspective just how much of an improvement you might expect to see between last year and this year, just given, I mean, obviously they have more moves to make, but adding Caleb Downs to the secondary, given the versatility you just talked about and that's been talked about, throughout the course of this process, how much of an impact do you think he makes day one?
Well, if you look at Christian Parker's history of coaching defensive backs as he's evolved to this point where he's a first-time defensive coordinator, he was in Denver when they drafted Patrick Surtain, who became an immediate starter, one of the best corners in football, and last year was a defensive player of the year in the NFL. And then you look at what he did in Philadelphia under Vic Fangio with Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. They became immediate impact players in an Eagles secondary that was one of the best in football, went on to win the Super Bowl. So I think between the two of them, they can have a really significant impact. And to your point about all the blown coverages, last year that we saw in Matt Eberflus's defense, I did reach out to Darren Woodson about, Caleb Downs because he seemed to endorse it with a post online. And I asked him what most impressed him about Caleb Downs, and he said, he has a clear love of the game. He's a student of the game. He brings an intelligence to the field. And he said, hell, half their problems were they couldn't even get lined up last year. So if Caleb Downs can assume that role, and the expectation is that he can do exactly that, then I think we'll see far fewer blown coverages last year. I mean, the Cowboys, you mentioned, they led the NFL, giving up 511 points. They gave up the most big passing plays in the league. They had the worst third down defense. It was just historically bad across the board. And so here they are now, with a first-time defensive coordinator in Christian Parker, highly regarded around the league. But the Cowboys failed on defense at a historic level under two veteran defensive coordinators each of the last 2 years. They've given up more points the last 2 years combined than any team in the league. 41 more points than the next worst team over the past two seasons. So, Christian Parker's is still going to be challenged, but the first part of getting it right is getting the coaching element right. And then the second part is, evaluating the draft players properly and being able to have a coaching staff that can develop those players into immediate impact players. And I think I have every reason to expect that's going to happen with these, top of the draft players that the Cowboys have chosen here.